Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley, and with me today is my guest, Lexi Ruiz. How are you today, Lexi?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, and I am thrilled to have you on the show today with us. And Lexi is going to be talking with us about something I think many of us who are a little bit more introverted could use some help on. And that's really about how do we network and talk to people in maybe circumstances where we don't feel quite as comfortable. And so, Lexi, tell us, how did you get into this world of content creation and Amazon and networking?
All right. So it was 2022, and I had been teaching all my career since college up until then. But I wanted to do something different. And I met a guy, enter networking. I met a guy and I told him about this situation, and he goes, "Have you ever heard of Fiverr?" And I'm like, "Fiverr? No, what is that?" It's a platform where you put a talent that you have as a gig and people pay you for it. Why don't you just put things up there and see what sticks? And I'm like, okay, that's a cool idea. So I made a gig on Fiverr and it was, I will wear your brand in front of my closet for $20. And I really didn't know what to expect from that. I got some pretty cool gigs. Someone wanted me to record a video of me dancing to add to their music video. And then I was getting hits from Amazon sellers to make products, make videos with their products. And I'm like, hold on a second. I feel like there's a little niche here. So then I started making more videos about products. And then Fiverr sent me an email saying, hey, we're having a community network event in Miami that we'd like for you to go to. And I'm like, wow, this is perfect. So I went to that Fiverr community event, and Fiverr really cares about their community. Like, it's such a great platform to be working on. So I went to the community event, and that's where I met someone named Carlos Alvarez. Have you met him before?
Oh, yeah. I know
Yeah.
Carlos very well. He's awesome.
Yeah, so he was a Fiverr community leader for Miami. And I had told him what I did. And he's, wait a minute, I have a whole community of people that might be interested in what you do. You should come to our workshops and networking events. So I'm like, okay, this sounds good. So then I started going to those networking events and meeting the people there and the community. It's called the Wizards of Ecom. They are so cool. But at first, though, I was super nervous because here I am, someone who's creating content, and I'm going into the world of e commerce. And as that world is big, there's a lot going on in there. So I remember telling myself before going to these networking events, okay, Lexi, just be genuine and be kind. And there's nothing that can go wrong when you are genuine and kind to people, even though you're nervous. Just say hi and be you. And that's literally all I did at those events. And it worked. It worked out really well. And so I was doing that. I was going to those events. And also, I ended up moving to Orlando. And then there was a space open for the Orlando community leader for Fiverr. So I'm like, oh, I want to take it. And so I applied for it with Liz, and Carlos actually recommended me for the position. And then I was like leading networking events. It was so cool. It was amazing. So as you can tell, Desiree, this journey has been like all over the place with all of these amazing opportunities that have presented themselves to me because I put myself out there and because of meeting people and connecting with people. And now, two really awesome opportunities I've had this year because of networking. One of them is I did content for Camp Ecom. And over there, it was 2 days of workshops, and I got to interview people. And Anthony Cofrancesco, he's the one who like contacted me about it. And I had such a good time. It's a super cool place to learn more about Amazon and the things you can sell. And then another really cool opportunity that came my way was at that event, networking again, I met Iran, who's part of Cubic, and that's where they plan and ship your inventory from overseas. I met him and his team, and they're like, Lexi, come with us to Las Vegas to the Prosper Show and do content for us there. And I'm like, yes, I would love to do that. And over there at Prosper, I had such a good time. You've been before, right? Las Vegas is so much fun. And the company was so cool. Iran, Omri, and Guy, they were like really awesome people to work with. And so just opening up yourself and meeting new people, like you never know what amazing opportunities or adventures or valuable insight can come about just from saying hello to somebody.
Yes,
So,
Lexi, thank you so much for sharing that journey with us. And you're absolutely right. You said be genuine and be kind. And that is really all that's necessary. I think that we sometimes complicate this so much in our minds, but just being genuine and kind is wow. Thank you for boiling it down to the nitty gritty of what really matters. That was awesome. And I want to talk about this networking specifically. And you talk about power in networking. And so you shared with us the opportunities that came about because of these different networking experiences. And so talk with us about what that means, power in networking.
yeah, so networking is the interaction with somebody, personal, professional, but the power in it really comes from the potential beauty or the potential adventure, like I had said, or opportunity or valuable insight that someone can give you that came about just because you introduced yourself and you said hi. A lot of times, I don't like going into conversations expecting something from somebody. I like to just go into them and just seeing what happens. And you really don't have to like have a long conversation with somebody either. Sometimes a conversation does get boring. Sometimes you don't want to talk to them. And then in that moment, you're just like, it was really cool to meet you. I'll see you around. That's literally it. And then the next time you see them around, you can wave at them from a distance if you want. And it works like that. And you just made like a friend at an event that you'll probably see again too.
Yeah, and that's a good point because especially in the community of, Amazon and is the e-commerce world, there's a lot of people that you see over and over again. So keeping those connections light and happy and genuine, you're going to see them again. And so you want to be kind of on good terms with different people because you will no doubt see them again. But you said something in there and it sparked a thought for me, and that's how you can be authentic and where it's not transactional, where you're not trying to meet somebody and like, what can you do for me? Or what can I do for you? And which sort of feels like, a transaction. So, what are your thoughts on that and like how you can kind of keep it so that it's more organic and comfortable?
Well, I guess it depends on the networking purpose. If the networking purpose is personal, it would be different than professional because let's say if I was a salesperson, I was networking, then my goals would be different. I'd be trying to direct the conversation to ultimately get some answers so I could ask some really good questions. So then I could become like a potential person for them to buy my services. But my thing I love to do is just to go into a conversation not having any of those expectations because you never know what that person brings to the table and they don't know what I bring to the table too. Like it goes both ways. I'm going in there to learn something about them, but they could definitely learn something from me that helps them, where I could present an opportunity to them that they never knew about too. So it's bringing value to each other that is super awesome. And I think that making a conversation a little bit personal too is kinda nice, like, asking how their day is. So simple, right? But, like, asking how they feel about the event or if they've learned anything valuable that they could use for themselves and their business. Asking them, like, really genuine genuine questions to get to know what they're thinking is a really great way to have a conversation with somebody and not make it so transactional.
Yeah, that's right. Good point, Lexi, in that a little bit of personal is good. You don't have to go deep diving into their personal life, but it's good to get just kind of a sense and asking open-ended questions, like you said, about what do you think about this event? And have you maybe picked up something that could be useful for you? Sparks the conversation a little bit more, and you get to know a little bit more about what maybe is important to them and perhaps someone that can help them in whatever it is that they're looking as well.
Mhm.
I love that. And so I want to ask you if there's any like go-to moves that you have. And I know that you shared about just saying, "Hi, I'm Lexi. What's your name?" But
Yeah.
can you share any other tips with those of us who perhaps feel uncomfortable in these kind of situations where we don't always know what to say?
Yeah. For me, it actually first starts with when I'm getting ready and getting dressed. I put on something that I feel really good in, and I do my makeup and I do my hair, and I'm very intentional. By the time I get there, I'm like refreshed and I'm like so ready to meet some people. I feel like that right there, people can sense that from me. So when I approach them, they got that energy from me. And so when I talk to them, I usually say, "Hey, how are you?" Or, "Hey, my name is Lexi." It depends on what the purpose is for me speaking with them. But my tips would definitely be in something that you're super comfortable in, that you feel really good in, and then talk to yourself in the mirror and just say, "All I gotta do is be kind and be genuine." And then the person out there who is like matching that energy of yours, they will talk to you. And the people who are not really your vibe, they won't. And that's great. You don't want them talking to you really, anyways, because they're not like your vibe. You want your vibe to talk to you. And so you won't know that unless you talk to everybody and see what they have to say. But I have found that of all the people I've talked to, everyone really does like meeting other people. And I think it's because a lot of times people are so shy to go up to somebody that's a little bit nice when somebody goes up to them and says hi or talks to them about the event or just even gives them a compliment about what they're wearing. Like I am so into fashion and stuff like that, so I have no problem going up to somebody and letting them know that I really like their outfit choice, or I like that the colors that they chose, or something like that. So,
Yes.
what you're wearing, how you present yourself, and I know it's kind of crazy to say, don't be scared about it, but don't be scared about it, really. If the person doesn't want to talk to you, that is okay. There's so many people in this world, the next person's gonna wanna talk to you, and that's totally fine too. Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you for sharing those with us. The point that you made about the energy and mindset and talking to yourself before you go to these events is huge. I love those because really, how often are we going in our mind? I don't want to go to this event. I'm scared to go to this event. I don't know who I'm going to talk to. I don't know what I'm going to say. And what are you doing? You're like setting yourself up for that experience, right? But by changing the things that you're thinking about to yourself and telling yourself completely changes your mind, your energy, everything about how the event is going to unfold for you. And so, what a great reminder for us. Thank you, Lexi, for sharing that. And what you were sharing about complimenting somebody. Who doesn't love to receive a compliment? I can't name a single person, right? Because it makes us feel good. And as the person who is giving the compliment, it makes us feel good too. And so it's a win.
Yeah. It is a win, and even if it's just a compliment in that moment and then you do something else, but then you see them later and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" They recognize you, they know who you are, so now they're definitely going to talk to you because you made that connection already. So in the moment, like, even if you were to wave at someone, you don't necessarily have to have a full-blown conversation with them in that moment. It's just making those positive connections with people. So when you do approach them or you do see them, they're like, "Oh, hey, I know you." Or, "Hey, girl, what's up?" And then you see them again, and next thing they're your friends.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. No, I know that you mentioned many networking events that you go to. And so, how do you really make it so that you are memorable to the people that you're meeting? And how do you remember all the people that you're meeting? Because that's true as well. If you're just at an event that's got 100 people, how are you remembering them all?
I have an app that I use called Poppable, where it has a barcode on it and people will scan it and then they put their information in there and then notes. And a lot of times people get real detailed with those notes and things like that. And I can put a note in there too. And then that contact saves to my phone and then my contact saves to their phone. And a picture too. I have a picture on my contact. I recommend everybody to do that because it's so much easier when you share contacts, if you already have a picture on there for that person to be able to recall you, and then I can recall people as well. So definitely have a picture. But as far as names go, you're probably gonna be very upset with me saying this, but I have the hardest time remembering names. I have to see somebody like 4 times before I'm like, okay, that is their name. It's just the way I am, and I try so hard. There are ways, like, you can, say the person's name over and over again in the conversation. I think that's a great idea, but sometimes I just get so caught up in what I'm saying that I forget to say their name again. But recently I've gone into after and I'm gonna say bye. I'll say, "Hey, so what was your name again?" And I don't feel bad about asking that. I used to feel like maybe I was rude asking for the person's name again, but it's actually more rude to not ask and to never know. So I'm getting myself more comfortable with saying, "Hey, what's your name again? I'm so sorry. I completely forgot." And then hearing it and then remembering it, putting it in my phone and having a picture right there with it.
That's fantastic. Great advice. I think you're not the only one who has had the experience where you get somebody's name and 2 seconds later, it's gone. It's like you never even heard it in the first place. And I think because we're so focused on what we're going to say next or whatever's going to happen next, that we just don't take that extra moment to really kind of imprint that name. And yes, there are tips and tricks and tools and all kinds of things that we can do to remember those other people's names that we're meeting in that moment, and this is something I have been working on for myself as well. So you're not the only one. But I love the idea of having the contact with the photo because you're right. It really makes a difference in you see the person's face with their name. And so that next time you absolutely will have that connection because it's right there.
Yeah.
So good tip. Um,
Also, I wanna
yeah,
mention that recently, like, at the last event, if the person gave me their number and they didn't have a photo, I'll ask the person, like, "Hey, can I take a picture of you so it can be your contact photo?" And all the people that I asked, they were totally cool with it. So if you are confident enough to ask people for their picture, they might just as well be cool with it too. So you can try that out as well.
yeah, awesome. That is a great tip. And you shared about an app called Popple, and we'll put the link in the show notes so people know exactly what that is and how it works. I use it as well, and I think it's a fabulous tool. So, yes. But let's talk about if there has ever been an occasion where you're at a networking event and it's just been like a big fail, and you just maybe a hilarious story or something that you want to share with us where it was just like, oh, this completely turned or went sideways or whatever.
Yeah. At the last event that I was working at the Prosper Show, I had been networking and meeting people from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. nonstop. And you might not believe this, I'm actually an introvert, but like I put myself out there to be an extrovert. My social battery was running like this low. Like I couldn't do it anymore. The last person I talked to, that conversation sounded so transactional to me, and I was becoming a robot that I was like, "Okay, Lex, I have 5 more hours of networking. I'm gonna go back to my hotel room, take a shower, put on makeup, put on a new outfit and become and leave as a new, refreshed person to come into this event because I cannot keep functioning the way I am. I need to like rejuvenate myself and refresh my battery so I can come out here and do these next 5 hours really good. And I did that. And when I left my room, I felt so much better. I think that one thing is that if you're feeling like you are like at your social battery is so low, not feeling bad about taking a moment to yourself to be by yourself, to not talk to anybody, to just get your thoughts together and breathe and maybe do a if you need to. So that way you can feel good again and you can get like your color back in your face and you can get your like jazz and start talking to people again. So
Yes,
that's my
excellent.
strategy.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. And again, I feel like there's many of us who can relate to that, where we have just been at a party or an event and it's just we have used it all. We have given it all. We have no energy left. And we need that 5 minutes in the bathroom to pull ourselves back together and take a deep breath and recuperate. But that's such a great example of how we can step away and, like you said, just have some time to ourselves to take those deep breaths and kind of get back to our center so we can
Mhm,
come back and be refreshed and be with the other person in a way that's, again, genuine and kind.
exactly. Taking those moments and not feeling bad about it. Like I felt bad that I had to take moments to myself. But then I'm like, wait a minute. I never feel bad about taking a moment for yourself or never feel like alone or awkward if you just want to sit by yourself and not talk to anybody. Like feel totally confident and just being by yourself if you need to. And when you do that, you just really get your energy back and you feel so much better afterwards. And then you're ready to talk to anybody you need to.
Yes, thank you for sharing that with us. I think it's a really good reminder that it's okay to do
Yeah.
that.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanna ask you, how do you stay on somebody's radar, if you will? Like, maybe somebody that you've met at an event and you really want to work with them. How to stay in connection with them in a way that's not, I don't know, creepy?
I like to message the person afterwards. Usually in our conversation, I'll hear something that I think would be really good to follow up on. If they told me something that was going on in their personal life or something about the event. If I didn't ask them already what they thought about the event, I can follow up with them and say, "Hey, what'd you think about the rest of the event? How did it go?" And things like that, and just start conversations with them over text. And then from there, if it's for a professional reason and I have a goal in mind, then my conversation will be directed that way. But it's for personal, I think just having those positive connects with them is good enough. So, like you said, the community is so small that if you see someone at an event and you vibe over, let's say both of you listen to EDM, right? Like I like EDM, and you're like sharing music with each other. That's kind of like enough for them to be like, oh, okay, this person's a cool person. Like, they're cool, and then you see them again at the event, and then you're talking about the event, but then you're talking about EDM and maybe a concert that they went to. So, having a good way to follow up with someone and not be a pest would be to circle back on maybe something that both of you guys had in common or just reaching out to them with something in a positive manner and then leaving it at that. And then if you want to have a follow-up conversation later, you can. But I don't like when people like just keep messaging me over and over again. So I don't do the same thing to others. I definitely give them their space. I think everybody kind of likes their space a little bit. And then seeing them again at the next event. I've seen so many people at the other events where I'm like, it becomes kind of like cheers. I'm like, hey, and they're like, hey. And in my mind, we're all like a big happy family type of thing.
That's awesome. I love it. And I think that sometimes we get caught up in this idea of I don't want to bother them, or I don't want to waste their time, or whatever excuse or some reason that we have in our mind that we don't make that attempt to reach out, even to just one single time, let alone multiple times. But what you shared about that connection, whatever it is that you talked about, something that you thought of them and you wanted to say, is a good way to reach out and not feel weird about it, right? And what a fantastic point in that there's only so many times you need to reach out and do it in a way that's genuine. Again, that's what really matters, is that genuineness of what you're doing. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I want to ask you, as I love to ask all of my guests, if there's any books that you've read or podcasts that you listen to that you have found to be beneficial or influential, helpful to you in any way. If you want to share those with us now, I'd love it.
Yeah. Back in 2022, when I was telling you I started this journey, I listened to this podcast called The Mindset Mentor. Have you heard of it? By
Yeah.
Rob Dial. So that podcast, listening to it really helped me like get my mind where it needed to be able to do this whole thing how I needed to be, because I wasn't there before. In 2021, I wasn't there, but 2022, like, I was there, and that podcast helped me a lot because it gave me a lot of validation of who I am. I am enough, my time is important, and oh, that's another thing, by the way, I'm not following up with people. I think my time is just as valuable as their time. I never think I'm really bothering them because I'm like, I got a lot of things to do too, and I'm reaching out to you to say hi. So you can say hi to me or not, but like my time is valuable as well. So I think because I go into that with that mentality, I never really feel like I'm being a pest or anything like that. But that podcast, like I was saying, I think that helped me a lot with getting to where I am. And I haven't been reading any books or podcasts. I listened to your podcast actually. Yeah, I listened I told you about it. I loved your speakers. So I listened to your podcast, and right now I haven't been reading any books. I've just been working on my herb garden. So the books I've been reading are related to how to keep my herbs alive and how to grow more and different recipes I can use with them. And for me, that's like my outlet. That's what I love to do. I love to eat like really fresh tasting food with fresh tasting herbs because I also think that impacts your energy. So if you put good things in, you get good things out, and it gives me all the nutrition and positivity I need. And so if you ever want any book recommendations on herbs and growing a garden, I'm your girl. I got you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. The podcast, fabulous. I love it. I will for sure link that in the show notes. And if you want to share the books with me that you've read in terms of the herb garden and how to grow your herbs, I can include the links for those as well. But you know what? It's true. What we put into us serves us or doesn't serve us if we're eating things that are not good for us. And I have had many guests on the show who have talked about that food is your life and your health, and it's what fuels you if you're putting the good stuff in. And so I 100% agree with you that good, fresh food and herbs 100%. That's good for your body, and it's going to increase your energy exponentially when you're eating well. So I totally agree with that. So then, is there anything else that you want to share with us? Any other last thoughts that you want to have the listeners know about networking, sharing their contact information with other people at the shows, staying connected? Anything else that you want to share that you think the listeners should know?
Uh, I think that when you're going into networking, just be confident with being yourself. Say it again, just be genuine and be kind because when you put that out there, it'll come back to you. And then you'll feel safe talking to people because that's your thing. And then that's what people will know you for. So when they see your face, they're like, oh, I know I can talk to her, or I know I can talk to him. He's cool and he's someone I can make a connection with. So just be genuine, be kind, wear an outfit that you feel good in. Take the time to just decompress if you need to. That's totally okay. Use pictures to try and remember people and have a picture for your contact as well, and have fun with it. Really like networking, I think I used to be, like, super nervous about it, but now I think it's the most fun thing ever because it's almost like I'm just adding people I know to, like, my circle, and I find out the coolest things, the coolest opportunities, the coolest information. You learn such, like, things you never even knew about or thought about that you learn from when you talk to somebody else. So do all those things. And then, you know what? I have my LinkedIn here. Anyone from this podcast can totally reach out to me if I'm going to an event and then they're like, "Hey, I'm going to go to this event. Will you be there?" And if they're someone who's nervous or an introvert, I will totally meet up with them at the event, help them feel comfortable. If I know people, I will connect them to. Like, I have zero problems with that. I would love for people to reach out to me if they wanted to, or if they feel like some shy introvertedness, because I would like to help them and share with them that it is okay and you are going to have fun.
Awesome. I love it, Lexi. Thank you so much for reiterating those points and sharing that with us. And yes, at this point, I would love to have you share how people can connect with you. If they have any other questions, want to pick your brain, or just find out what is happening on your journey, how would they be able to do that?
I'm going to leave my LinkedIn for people to be able to contact me.
I'll include in the show notes so that the listeners can find you.
I'm going to share my Instagram. So I'm going to share my LinkedIn. And if I think of anything else, I will include it in there. Just contact me that way.
Sounds good. I will be sure to include that in the show notes so that the listeners can easily find you. And Lexi, thank you so much for sharing this knowledge and these tips with us. It is so beneficial, I think, for many of us who are just unsure about how to go about being at these events. And what you have just shared with us has just been tremendous. So thank you again for taking the time to come on the show. I appreciate it.
You. I had such a great time. It was so nice talking with you. And I'm so excited for people to listen to this podcast and be so energized and so ready that they're like, I can do this. And they're going to have a great time. I'm excited about that.
Yes, I love it. Thank you again, Lexi, and we'll talk more soon. Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.